Our last speaker tonight is Nikki Ottosen. Welcome, Nikki.
My name is Nikki Ottosen, and I have an organization called the Backpack Project. I am here today to talk about the tremendous loss and deaths over the past few months in the unhoused community. I have stood here many times before, as have many others, to provide you with information on what is happening on the ground to people who live without homes, and to share provincial and federal reports and guidelines that would assist Mayor and Council in providing solutions to the crisis we are all faced with. The Office of the Federal Housing Advocate has reached out to you specifically, and yet there are no clear indications that you are following their recommendations. We have begged and pleaded with you to speak with managers and bylaw officers to make sure they are following best practices and procedures, but it has fallen on deaf ears. We have repeatedly warned you that bylaw has gone rogue, and this will only result in human rights complaints and court cases against the city. In the last few months, you have done nothing to address the human rights violations or the trauma that has been inflicted by police and bylaw officers on people whose only option is to find shelter in parks. In fact, this mayor and council has literally doubled down on the war against people who live in extreme poverty in our community, by removing parks from the allowable sheltering list with not enough shelter spaces in the city. And so now our friends and our loved ones are dying. Recently, there has been more than 13 deaths in 3 weeks. Every death can be attributed to a bylaw sweep. Every death is because the person's Section 7 charter rights and the ability to provide themselves with shelter is taken away by the removal of tents, blankets, clothing, medication, food, ID, and immediate survival items. People are not only displaced from the area, their human rights are stripped of them, thrown in the garbage, and they are forced to areas where they are alone, without community, and they lose contact with outreach and support teams. There is plenty of research to show that when this kind of trauma happens to people, they use more substances and they use alone, which is exactly what you should be trying to avoid if you want to serve and protect people in our community during a public health state of emergency. Last Wednesday, my friend, community leader, unhoused advocate, Shay Smith, passed away. He spoke to you recently about the plight of what people are faced with due to the closing of those parks. Shay's death, like so many others, was preventable. My friend Shay died because you have voted to close more and more parks and refused to follow government guidelines. He died alone because he was repeatedly displaced from parks onto streets and sidewalks. He died alone because you broke up a community, and I will never forgive you for this. I blame all of you. I blame all of you for his death. And as you are fully aware, Shay was also a petitioner in a judicial review that was filed against the city around the closing of Vic West and Irving Park. Shay is now dead. Another petitioner has been trying to survive in one of the last 3 parks that allow sheltering. However, a month ago, police and bylaw impounded all of her belongings twice, and she was forced into hiding because bylaw had told her if she didn't leave the allowable sheltering park, they would take her dog. It took me 2 weeks to find her. She was outside in the elements with no shelter during the bomb cyclone and during the storms we had in November. When I finally found her, she was sick with the flu. I brought her back to the park 2 weeks ago, and I set her up with tent, blankets, and supplies. Since then, bylaw has continued their daily harassment and has taken everything outside her tent, including her wagon, her bicycle that she uses for transportation, her food, her pet crates, and her dog supplies. They have impounded her belongings 3 times in 3 weeks and have threatened repeatedly that if she doesn't leave the park, they will take her dog from her. She is terribly sick right now. We are monitoring her for pneumonia and infections that could potentially kill her. This morning, she was surrounded by bylaw and animal control. And if it were not for community advocates who showed up to film and support her, they would have taken her dog and impounded her survival gear once again. We as a community have had to put her in hiding because we fear for her safety. This is unacceptable for the city to be implicated in the deaths and the suffering against petitioners in a court case against the city. We do not accept this. We do not accept the closing of the parks and the human rights violations. We do not accept that there is nothing you can do. As elected officials, it is your legal and moral responsibility to keep everyone safe. There are women who cry in doorways and on sidewalks because of your broken promises. There are seniors sleeping on their walkers with tarps covering them because of your inhumane policies and bylaws. There are Indigenous peoples dying on the unceded lands because of ruthlessness of police and bylaw and because of the apathy of mayor and council and your short-sighted solutions. We do not accept, after all this, that the mayor has invited the community to stand with her and police on December 21st on Homeless Memorial Day at the Whale Wall for their insincere photo ops. And quite frankly, I think it's reprehensible that you would drive the knife into the heart of the community on such a sad day, considering all you have done. You can violate human rights while you try to pass the buck to other municipalities and force them to support the shelter systems because you are pushing people to outlying municipalities away from their supports and community. Do you know who has the support of every single municipality? I do, and we do. And what those communities are saying to the Backpack Project is what the mayor and council of the city of Victoria are doing is inhumane. People don't deserve to die alone on the streets because the city is trying to hide the homelessness crisis we are in. Every time a tent is destroyed, it is replaced by community members throughout the greater Victoria region who care, and we won't stop. There will be a time when you are all relieved of your duties here. You will have to live with the legacy you created, and you will be reminded of all the people who have died preventable deaths on your watch. You have turned my friend Shay into a martyr. You have destroyed the lives of many families in this community because of your arrogance and your apathy. This Christmas, when you're with your family and friends, I hope that every time you hug your children and your grandchildren, you will think of the families that don't have their loved ones because of your inaction. I hope you think of the women and the seniors and people with disabilities that are sobbing in doorways because of your callousness. I hope that when you raise your glasses this Christmas, you are reminded of the loss of life you have contributed to in this city. And I hope that you remember my friend Shay and everyone we have lost since you have been elected. One day when you leave the comfort of City Hall, you will have to face the community whose loved ones have died at your hands. But I will still be here. We will still be here. I will never burn out. I will die on this hill. The power of community and the love that has been shown to the unhoused community through the Backpack Project is what keeps us going. Until then, expect more court cases, more human rights complaints, more lawyers' fees. We will never give up. We will never surrender. We stand firmly on our position of human rights and government accountability and housing for all.
Subjected to this horribleness that you guys have put on us. Do you know how hard it is to live on the streets? No, you don't. You don't get to go and sleep in a doorway. You guys get to go home in your beds. You don't get woken up by a man pulling your tent, the cover up your tent, exposing you to everybody that's around. Do you? No, but I have. I've been exposed because I have fibromyalgia. I can't have my clothes on all the time. because it drives my brain crazy. So I have to not have clothes on. The bylaw officers took the fly off of my tent and exposed me to everybody that was standing in the dog park watching it happen. Do you know how disgusting that is?
Hey!
Bylaw has gone rogue, and you need to get a handle on them, because we will be back. We will continue. It will cost the city millions of dollars to fight human rights complaints. You will be costing the taxpayers millions of dollars, never mind 4.7 on bylaw. The legal fees will be well above that.
We witnessed!
You need to make changes. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You need to make changes in the new year. And when you're with your family and friends, you better think about us. You better think about those people dying out there while you're cheering and hugging your loved ones, while we mourn the loss of our friends and family. They are our friends and family. They are from here. You are wrong. You are all wrong, Jeremy. You are wrong. And you
Jeremy,
held accountable.
stop.
One day you will apologize to us all.
No, it's okay.
Your time is up. Your time is up.